Hi, this is Tatiana, and as far as I know, this is my last video that I'm posting for the series of games that narcissists play. Unless something happens and something wonderful clicks in my head and I can get anything else out, I believe that this is the last one on my list. I wanted to say before the video, before the subject matter begins, I wanted to remind you that I'm not a doctor. This video series has been part of my coping strategy, so I want to thank you all for your comments and for listening. In fact, I really appreciate being able to share everything that I've been sharing, because it is cathartic, it's healing for me to share these and to validate myself and to validate others. Which leads me to what I also say at the beginning of all my videos. What is my hope is that my stories are going to validate your gut feelings. If you feel like maybe you are in a narcissistic or abusive relationship, that is what these stories are for. If you don't have someone to talk to, these are my stories. These are the games that narcissists play. So if you hear things that you're recognizing are occurring in your life, my goal is that you will be validated much quicker than I was validated and start making a plan to get out. So I'm closing with the golden child. And this one was actually at the end of my list because I wasn't the golden child. So I thought maybe I don't have many examples, but it is a tactic that narcissists use. Okay, so even though I wasn't the golden child, I do know of several children who are golden child, and who are the golden child, and the siblings who are not the golden child. So I know one person who is the golden child, and this is the interesting thing, is that person didn't know that they were the golden child. This is the most fascinating thing that I've experienced, is that that golden child is unaware that the parent is a narcissist. Okay, so basically the definition, my explanation of a golden child is that the narcissistic abusive parent has several children, 2 or more children, and one of those children is chosen to be the golden child. They never do wrong. Why don't you be more like so-and-so? And when they graduate from high school, they get a car. When you graduate from high school, you don't get a car. And you don't really know why there is a difference between you. Why is one preferred over the other? So most of the time, you know, if you were not the golden child, I can tell you right off the bat, you need to forgive the golden child. It's not the golden child's fault. It's not their fault. Anything, and this wonderful self-esteem that you often see in that golden child, you know, can just be heart-wrenching. Like, I just feel like shit with no self-esteem, and how come everything comes to them in life so easily? Because they have the confidence, because they were raised to have all that confidence, right? They couldn't do anything wrong. Okay, and they don't have any problems with self-sabotage. They're kicking ass. They've always been told that they kick ass. So forgive the golden child, and recognize that that is an abuse tactic in order to make you and or any of your other siblings, you know, feed their narcissistic supply. Feels like shit. Feels like shit when someone else is, you know, wonderful, and you can't figure out why there's a difference between you. And I would even advocate, because once you see the game, and you can see how, and this isn't always, you know, it isn't all the time, but certainly, you know, I in my experience, the golden child just seems to just really do well in society, most. Okay, so anyway, I want you to look at how they were treated, what they were aware of as far as they were treated, and start treating yourself that way. Start treating yourself that way, because, you know, even though there was dysfunction, even though it was dysfunction and not true. It's not true that that golden child is better than you. Uh, um, Even how do I describe that? I have Splenda, right, every day. Okay, so Splenda is not sugar, but it's really sweet like sugar, and I can consume and consume and consume and consume it, and I don't gain the weight that I used to when I had real sugar. Okay, so even though it's Splenda, it's still sweet. It is sweet, sweet, sweet. So I want you to start doing that to you, whether you believe it or not yet. Start treating yourself like the golden child, because it will work. Anything that you feed yourself that's sweet and encouraging, and you cannot fail, and you're going to be the best thing the planet has ever created, it will build your self-esteem. Watch who is that guy, Anthony Robbins? Watch his self-help. That's basically what he says. Just change the way that you talk to yourself and about yourself. Or if you're religious, watch Joel Osteen. He will feed you and feed you and feed you positive input. Okay, it makes a difference, right? Okay, so I want you to separate between who that golden child is, and for the sake of this video and validating your gut feelings, recognize that the golden child is a game that narcissists play. Okay, and that's a different situation for you to work out. Is that that was a tactic? It's not true. Okay, and it is designed to hurt you. Everything that was done was designed to hurt you, right? You had a birthday party and you got nothing, and the other person got presents and presents and presents galore. Okay, so the other example that I have of the golden child, I know someone who, so I don't think that they knew, and most of the time we know, abuse is it's generational, not because you inherit it, but because you learn the behavior. So I knew a woman who, when I was much younger, had said to me, oh, my sister, she's just always never could do wrong. My mom did this, my mom did that, and she was telling me, she felt bad, right? It made her feel bad that her sister was so great and, she could never do anything right. And yet she was the one who was taking care of her mother. Then when she had children, and so she was like several children in, so then I saw that for some reason, I wasn't aware of this, but I remember going back and visiting, and one of the younger children were saying, oh, blah, 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 he's the golden child. That's the first time I had ever heard the term, the golden child. And I don't think that they were aware of it being a narcissistic game. They just all treated him like he could do, the child, like he could do no wrong. And it wasn't until, I think, as the children grew and saw that, no, it's not that we all just think, that he's awesome. It's, like I said earlier, he graduated and he got a car. Nobody else got a car. He graduated from high school and had college and his apartment paid for. Nobody else had their college and apartment paid for. I think as those kids grew up, they realized, that there's something not right about that. And at this point, I don't think that those kids are aware that that some of the self-esteem that they struggle with is because of that, picking out of that sibling. So those are just the two examples that I have of the golden child. Like I said, I don't have many examples because I wasn't the golden child. Neither of my parents had a golden child. There certainly was some favoritism here and there, but for me, in my perception, it wasn't the golden child game, because the favoritism was more like, you're feeding my narcissist supply, therefore you're getting more attention. It wasn't that over the top emotional support, financial support, and the degrading of the other siblings. And so before I close this video, I also wanted to talk about that particular degrading of the other siblings, because sometimes there is the complete opposite, and I'm sorry, I don't know the name of this, but I know it is a tactic. The complete opposite of the golden child is when you have the child that's bad and everybody participates in that child being bad. If you ever read this book, which is heartbreaking, but if that's a scenario that you've experienced, there's a book called A Child Called It, and that is a story, I believe, from the late 60s, late 60s, early 70s, when there wasn't a lot of public awareness of child abuse. It's a wonderful story in that a teacher did help that child get out of the abuse, but it was a new thing for teachers to help. And I can say, as an educator, we are, when you get your license, I can't remember now, when you get your license or when you graduate, I believe my license, at the time, I had to sign and do an oath kind of a thing to be, what was it called? A required reporter, I think is what it was called. Anyway, and even now, because I'm licensed to teach, I'm a required reporter. That means that if I see child abuse, I am required to report it to the police, or to, at school, I'm required to discuss it with my principal, and from my principal, we are required to go to the police if I suspect abuse. And so when this book was written, this is before that law. It is before teachers had a right to intervene. And yes, we do need to be careful to not falsely accuse. But because it's the law now, teachers are much more aware. That's the thing. There's always got to be a give and take, right, to have the balance. But the fact of the matter is you get training while you're getting your college degree to be more aware of abuse and the signs of abuse with children. I'll give you a quick example. Children who smell like urine. Children who smell like urine may not be bathing, as well as children who smell like urine may be being sexually abused and are using the smell of urine to hopefully deter that abuser from touching them anymore. Now, certainly kids can pee their pants and all that kind of stuff, right? A teacher has to balance what they're observing. You don't just go, hey, you smell like pee, I'm going to call Child Protective Services. But you do go, they smell like urine, I'm going to start observing, okay? So back before that, law was passed and they started educating teachers. A teacher was aware that this child, or had become aware that this child was abused, and once the boy grew up, he wrote a book called A Child Called It. So take a moment, if you're at the other spectrum of the golden child, where you were isolated as the bad child, that may be a helpful book for you, and or even just Google searching that book, you might come across more supportive websites or resources, and or the National Domestic Violence Hotline number as I conclude all my videos. So the golden child, if you experience that in your life, who knows, you might even be becoming aware that you are the golden child. I have to even remember here for a second, I remember someone coming to me and saying that they went to go see their father when he was dying, and the other brother was standing outside, and Dad said he didn't want to see the other brother, and then when he walked in, he said, you were always my favorite. And when that person told me that, I thought, your dad was abusive. Everybody else is suffering from abuse, and you have no idea. So have compassion on that golden child, and seek help if you were not the golden child, but grew up like that. And then the other spectrum of it, I don't know what you would call it. What's the opposite of gold? I don't know. Maybe the black child, the black sheep, right? But to the extreme. If you are considering either one of those as a narcissistic abusive game that's been played on you, give a call to the National Domestic Violence Hotline number, and that number is 1-800-799-SAFE, 1-800-799-SAFE, 1-800-799-7233. And again, I thank you very much for listening and helping validate my gut feelings. And I hope that this series is helpful for you or someone you love to validate their gut feelings and to get out of abusive relationships and to discontinue participating in the games that narcissists play. I'm wishing you much love.